I'm Theron Q Ramacharaka. I've been asked to talk about turning points. Life's turning points. Well, I haven't given this a lot of forethought, specifically for this video, but I have experienced turning points. So what to say? I'm winging it right now. There are many things that can be said, and I'm at first thinking here of what is a turning point. That's what's immediately on my mind about it. My vision is getting very blurry. I'm not reading anything right now, but I still want these glasses because I'm at least looking at the camera here and the image of myself doing this, and I need it to be a little clear. So I apologize for the reflection in the lenses. Excuse me. The turning point. Now, I haven't even looked up the definition of turning point, but I think we all have a general idea of what a turning point is. Excuse me once again. I just got up as well. So, all right, a turning point. I think we can agree that a turning point in life is a critical moment in our lives, such that the before and after are quite different from one another. A point of major change. We may also consider that a turning point, we can understand, I believe, that a turning point, if we think of something turning, is the center. The turning point is the center. If things are moving in a circular fashion, let's say like a record album or a hard drive that spins. Well, the center of that spinning circular thing is the turning point. So in a sense, that point is standing still. Just think of the mechanics of the movement. Now, yes, it is spinning on a physical thing, physically, if it's a physical object, yes, but it is not traveling through space in a revolving fashion. It is simply rotating. We may also consider a turning point to be any point in that thing that's turning, such that it is making a revolution. Okay. Beyond all that now, though, how are we gonna look at this when we apply it to life? If something turns over or switches, moves forward, moves backwards, moves up, moves down in a somewhat such that the before and after are quite different from one another. That's what we normally think of as a turning point. All right, now these are moments in life when all that we have learned about self-mastery so far, and not just learned, but applied, practiced, put to use, become familiar with, when it is a pretty good idea for us at these turning point times to slow down and apply, really bring to bear all that we've been learning in the direction of self-mastery and applying, to bring these to the front in our contemplation of the current turn that's taking place, turn of events in our lives. Do some self-reflecting. Pay attention to what's going on. Perhaps, without going into speculation and jumping out of touch with reality without becoming delusional, but being just present of mind, present in your life right then, focusing on what's happening right now, the facts of the matter, and apply your skills with self-mastery right then. Bring into bear what progress you have made with recognizing or realizing or manifesting your true self as the center that does not change. Your core of being, your I-ness, your I amness, your isness as the center around which or from which, outside of which all this turning is taking place. These are all things that, if you've been on a course of real self-mastery, such as the material I lay out here, should be coming to bear for you. And it's time now, at a major turning point in your life, to get some core control over slowing down things in what you're doing in life, applying attention, your will to attention control, and taking a look at what has led up to this point and where this point might be going with your applications of core desires for love, existence, consciousness, joy, expression. Where do you want this to go? Your combination of desire and will working together. How can you direct this in the most healthy direction? You may need to reflect or look back what led up to events. See what you can learn from them. So this is the time to now look back. Right now, place your attention on what you can learn from the past, as well as now direct your attention to the future and where you want this to go. Excuse me. It's a good time to reevaluate your motives in life. Make sure that they are of the most refined nature that you can pull together right now. Check whether they are motives that point in directions toward goals that you would want for, let's say, maybe everybody to consider and move toward, if they were in the same conditions right now. Check their ethicality. Are they towards some ideals? Do you have good standards? Do you have high standards? Not unachievable. You can place them as high as you like mentally, and then and then work things, in the future toward, approximating those ideals. This is not unrealistic thinking. Where are things coming from and where are things going? You can consider those now. And that's a good reason to slow down your mental activity and your emotional activity. Practice deep breathing. Right then. Hopefully you've already been practicing that so that you can now just do it. That's what I meant by practice here a second ago. See, at a turning point, we're thinking of something moving in a circle, right? Turning. Well, turning points can work out for the better. Or just work out to be more of the same. In the manner of just a constant recurrence of the same, around and around and around and around. Or they can go downhill. Can lead to something devolving. Well, which do we want? We want a turning point. I mean, if we're interested in development and growth, which is the direction it looks like everything, at least in nature, is trying to go, we would like to see our turning point lead to something better than the past had it. Typically, these turning points come around during major events in our lives, like getting married, getting divorced, getting a new house, some kind of what we would call a tragic event, like a house fire, a world war that we're somehow involved in. I'm just talking about at our personal level of discourse right now, though not society as a whole or humanity as a whole. Talking about individually. Now listen, let's apply some principles of universal operation, and insofar as they are universal, or we take them to be universal, they should apply to our individual lives as well. Let's look at one or two and think along these terms here right now when it comes to this turning. There's a universal law or principle of universal operation called cyclicity or cycling. Things going in cycles. Like the turning of all things, tending to come back around. Now, it would be the case if that were the only thing going on, if that were the only law in operation, which it can't be, but if it were, for the sake of argument here, we would just have the same things repeating over and over. Like clothing styles. Let's just take a look at bell-bottom pants. Those became popular in the early 70s, 1970s. Then they went away. And it came back a few years ago. Was it exactly the same? No, it wasn't. The fabrics were a little different. In the early 70s, in almost every case, those bell-bottom pants were rather low cut at the top. They tended to blend in with this other fashion called hip hugging. They were low cut. When they came back around, they weren't low cut like that. And the bells on the bottom of the pants weren't quite as big. Didn't quite have the same circumference and diameter. There was an evolvement that took place. There was you get my point. What we desire to have happen at turning points is not just the same old thing again, although it can easily turn out that way. If we're not paying attention, slowing down and reflecting, recalling what led up to it, and then taking a look at where we want things to go, and then applying some self-mastery skills here that we've been hopefully practicing, at least for such a turning point in life, so that we don't have to start getting to work on some self-mastery during those turning points. These are times, again, to slow things down and apply what we've already made habit and be very aware of it at those times, very aware of what progress we've made. I mean, these may be turning points in our self-mastery too. We can turn them into that, like really put them to use during important moments so that we can take the self-mastery with us into the new phase of life and know, in retrospect then, that we did, in fact, play our role in engineering the results of our turning point. Rather than just having the same old thing come up again, and, and do another circle, and come back to some same point again. We want these cycles to turn into evolving, constructively and positively growth-oriented spirals, so that, let me find something circular. What? I don't know. Let's say right here. Here, I'll make a circle. Right there it is. Now, what I'm talking about, going around in a circle. Here we go. Let's say this is the point at which we have what we call a major event happen that's going to give us a new phase of life. All right. So we go around the circle. Okay, major event. Now, is this what we want to have happen? Just go around that circle again? Another major event? Pretty much just like the last one. Just the same thing again, and then around another loop. And we call this the turning point. Like house fire. House fire. House fire. Same old thing, same old reason for it, all of that. Is that what we want? No. But that would be a cycle, right? But there are other principles that work, especially if we bring them into play. Here's what we want. Let's say clothing style or whatever. Hopefully not a house fire. When we get around to this point again, we want it to be evolved. Things are going to go around in cycles. But we want to evolve them so that it's not just an eternal recurrence of the same, as Friedrich Nietzsche said, but we want them to be moving up in a spiral so that we're at some new plane or level each time we get around. So that this turning is moving in an on an axis in accordance with law of evolution. In alchemical terms, this is what we would call a transmuting cyclicalness. And we have to make sure in our individual spheres of life that this is what we're doing. This should be one of the results of us slowing down, applying full breathing to calm our minds, relax our bodies, and be able to focus. And applying all the self-mastery that we know from our core, I am. Do our best to leave false ego out of it. And evolve constructively, positively. Something that tends to happen at major turning points in our lives is that after them, we tended to forget what came before them because we're in a new state of mind. So, affairs from the former state of mind, or that belong to that, tend to stay with that state of mind, which is then no longer our current state. And that's okay. It's only okay, though. In a general sense, okay. But in that general sense, it's only okay if we have, at the turning point, done as I'm saying, and applied what there is to know from what led up to there. That's important for us in directing the future. So that next time around, it's not going to be the same old thing. It's going to have evolved. We need to examine our motives during turning points. Examine the general direction of the movement and how we are going and considered and made built into our revised and renewed, perhaps even renewed, and refined motives, which really are goals that have a motivating effect, motivating enough, emotionally endowed enough to lead us to action, so that in our moving toward them, in accordance with that motivation, moving toward the goals that are built into those motives, so that when things do come back around again, which they will, it won't be the same old thing again. It will have been a move toward greater self-mastery, greater true selfhood, greater connection, greater conscious connection with the eternal current, greater connection with the cosmic core of being, greater connection with the I am in all life, greater understanding and manifestation of our conscious awareness of our existence, our consciousness, our love, our expression, as all being dependent entirely on that which just is outside of, or beyond, or regardless of the manifested cosmos and its core of being. This is the direction that any turning in our lives can move in, toward a greater sense of oneness with all. If we're not evolving constructively, our turning points will just lead to another turning point that's pretty much the same as the last one. And we'll be just going around in circles in life. What else can I say about it right now? I guess plenty, but I'm not thinking of it at the moment. I just drank my cup of coffee. Maybe I'm still waiting for it to kick in. But if I come up with more about turning points, major turning points in life, I'll post it here. That's what I have for now. I'm Theron Q Ramacharaka. Be well.